What a great site, construction site really. We're very fortunate to be able to see it like this. I'm gonna have to check that out one day. 40% chance of showers today. What does that mean? Who knows? Maybe it's a bit ominous. Down the rain came. That means one thing. Mum's had her work cut out. 500 years old. By all accounts, that's a lot. It was most surprising. Went toes up.
Gate number 17.
Bit of new country here. We'll see what that means. It's been a good track. This landscape's just awesome. Not unpleasant. I'm not sure whether it'll be shattered. It's put a bit of a kibosh on our plans. We're most fortunate. Could have stayed home, I suppose. Sometimes you just got to pull into town and take stock on things. We opted tonight to just pull in this little campground, probably our last kick-off before we poke into the more remote country. So we've just pushed up from Broken Hill today to Silverton, which is where we find ourselves now. And there's a little campground. In fact, it's not too small. It's it's huge. It's like down at the local rec reserve, just tucked out the back of town. I reckon you'd fit hundreds in here actually, and in the last hour the crowds have been rolling in. It went sort of from nothing to, well, there's a good couple of dozen vans rolled in, I reckon. Anyway, the sun's all but down out the back here, just about on its last legs. And of course, when you're in town, there's only one thing to do, I suppose, and that is to sample the delights what town's got to offer. So there's a little sneaky 5-minute cut through just over here. Cuts across the dry river, and by all accounts it's 5 minutes to the pub. We've been on the road almost a week and we haven't stopped for a pub meal, so it's as good a spot as any. So we'll wander over there, sample the delights of the Silverton Hotel, and stagger back in the dark. But spots like this are a bit unexpected. We certainly weren't planning on stopping here. Our plans were to head off actually, sort of follow the border north towards Cameron's Corner. By the time we got here this afternoon and poked around in town, had a bit of a look at the sites, it was 2:30. I thought, well, we can poke out into the desert and see where we get to, or we can just pull up stumps, restock, have a breather, get going nice and early in the morning. Even in caravan parks you can get a good view. Maybe you don't have to be out in the middle of nowhere on your own. It's just about 7 o'clock local time. New South Wales, Central West I think they call it. Pretty spectacular. It is clouded over quite a lot. Maybe it's a bit ominous. 40% chance of showers today of up to 5 mil. Not sure what that's going to mean for us, but anyway, we'll poke along and play it by ear. Oh, it's time to wear down. That means one thing. We've hit the gravel. Actually looking a little bit ominous out there. We've been watching the forecast. We're going north out here and the weather's coming across this way. We're sort of hoping, guessing that we'll just keep in front of it. It's not due until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. What does that mean? Who knows? Anyway, we're on the gravel. That's what that means. 2,000 kilometres or maybe a bit more of bitumen to get to this point. So we're heading north here from Silverton to Cameron's Corner, South Australia, New South Wales border, and we're going to follow that border line. The track, it sort of ducks and weaves a little bit, goes up through a few gates, it follows the dog fence for a little bit. I think it's about 400 k's from Silverton to Cameron's Corner. We'll see what this weather does if we need to, we can duck across to Tibooburra. Anyway, that's the plan. So from here to Cameron's Corner, bit of new country here. We've certainly been up through Tibooburra into Cameron's Corner a number of times, but this is following that South Australian border. So been looking at this for a long time and never sort of poked in here, always in a bit of a hurry to shoot up the bitumen. So this trip's all about slowing down, going to those places we haven't been before, and well, here we go. For the most part, this track was in reasonable condition, probably due to it being used predominantly by local station traffic. Although, what we're about to stumble upon might influence future traffic usage. This track leads to numerous stations, and each one of them is delineated by the obligatory boundary fence. And of course, to get through a fence one needs a gate, or cattle grid. While there was an occasional grid, for the most part, gates dominated. The golden rule of travel is, if you're riding shotgun, it's your privilege to attend to the gates. On this leg of our journey, I noticed a minor jostle for the back seat, and while the front may have been sought early, interest soon waned as the gate count escalated. As the pilot, I was certainly glad I was not travelling solo, for had I been, there would have been some 120 exits and entry of the truck just to manage the gates, and to comply with that other golden rule of travel, leave the gates as found, I certainly would have got my steps in for the day.
You got me acting out, you. All tenderness is out the window. What you do to me when the cold bites blue is straight cruel. Oh, it has to be you leaving writings on the wall. You promised me roses and hungry haze, but now there's only madness. Got me feeling dusty, got me feeling dusty. I can't even whisper and it's hard to see. Don't take my hand away from me. Please tell me it's a dream. The worst kind you've ever dreamed. Don't wanna lay another night here without you. Don't wanna.
That one nearly bit ya.
I just can't. So please don't make me do it, 'cause I got too much to lose.
Gate number 17.
Just watching this ominous looking cloud. We've just swung around a bit more to the west. It's still light, clear out to the north. I think we're going to swing that way again in due course, but further to the south it looks like it's actually raining. So we're just keeping an eye on that. Still a bit of water sitting in the swales, the dips. Just got to watch when we come over these crests into the dip. It wants to snake around a little bit, so I've put the centre dip lock in just to give us maximum traction. It also will disengage if we go over 80 kilometres an hour anyways. There hasn't been too many vehicles in front of us, but there has been a vehicle or two, which makes it a bit easier to see where the soft spots are. So the privilege of opening the gates is get to sit in the front seat. Or was it the other way around? I'm not too sure. I think we've had about half a dozen gates so far closed. There's been a number of them open, fortunately. Mum's had her work cut out this morning. We had to pull up at this one, open it, close it again behind us, of course. But oh well, let's make the most of that and pull up, have half a cup. We put the nose bag on. Great spot for smoko. Perfect. Out behind me here. So there somewhere. Mount Woolwillara. We haven't quite said that right. Look that one up on your maps. It's been a good track so far. What's interesting with the track is it started off awesome, huge, big, and every time we get to someone's turn off to another station, the track decreases or slightly lesser maintenance regime beyond that driveway. So sequentially the track's getting less and less maintained as we go along. We'll see what that means when we get to the end of it. We just stumbled across this place. Wasn't marked on any maps. It's actually a national park. Brand newy, not quite gazetted. They started the development of it for people to be able to camp here. It was a pastoral holding. Apparently it was a Kidman property. There's 4 of them around here that have been bought up by the government and turned into park. It was most surprising. Handful of campsites, some great infrastructure, brand new dunnies, barbecues, picnic shelter. We'll take it anytime. The conversion of several western New South Wales outback stations, namely Avenel, Mount Westwood, Tealta and JOURNi, into a national park is the newest national park in Australia. Our short visit highlighted numerous walks and modern camping facilities. We'll need to return at a later time to explore further. This was indeed an unexpected find. Old Pine View station, they've set up a bit of a library, a bush library. Swap a book, drop off one, take one. An old fridge, converted. Not sure it gets too many loans. Oh, there's probably some stuff in there that's interesting reading. Catherine Gaskin, Promises. Oh, Catherine Marshall, Julie. Guest books, recipe books, home reno books. Well, it's only taken us the best part of a week, 7 days. Finally hit the orange sand dune country. It's a great part of the world. This landscape's just awesome. In this case we got a bit of probably white cypress, I imagine. A bit of native pine or something going on there as well. A little bit of that in the fire always smells nice too of an evening. Anyway, we're in red sand dune country, and this will probably be the case for the next week or so. We'll be poking along in this type of terrain, and then we'll head west. Not sure what this weather's doing, whether it's breaking up. Still got our eye on it. We ran into a park ranger just back here, this new national park. She was a bit worried about the rain, so I sort of took that as a hint to keep moving. Wow, this is one of those life moments where I'm not sure whether to be shattered, whether to be surprised, whether to be let down, whether to be... I'm not sure. I've had this spot right here, right where I'm standing, in my mind for many, many years. I've looked at the map, I've looked at this spot on the map, this point on the map, thought, wow, I'm going to have to check that out one day. This place here is called Hawker's Gate, and it always says on the map, Hawker's Gatehouse, no access to South Australia. Okay, they don't want you through, whatever reason, that's fine. But what I've discovered, now that I'm here, there's no bloody gate. That's why there's no access, because there's no gate. I think it's been a big con. I've been believing in this spot for years. I'm going to come here and I'm going to have a look at this gate that you're not allowed to go through. Hawker's Gate. It's not here. That's awesome. That is fantastic. Sucked me in. The road actually swings away now. We've been following the fence for some distance now, and we're going to turn right angles and boom, head east. There you go, Hawker's Gate. No bloody gate. How cool is that? That's fantastic. What else is on the map that you think, well, I'm going to have to check that out one day because of whatever it says? And it doesn't exist. Anyway, we're going to have half a cup, getting on in the day. We've probably got 100 k's to go, I think. We made it to Sturt National Park last night, Fort Grey campsite. We made it here just on dark. It was dark. No sooner had we set up, down the rain came. And it rained and rained and rained. There's a couple of picnic shelters spread around the campsite. and we had to make a dash for one of them. None of the facilities in there work, so we had to drag all our own gear over there. There's some gas cookers and gas barbecues, but they don't work. It's possibly only, you know, half an inch of rain, but it was good soaking rain most of the night. So we've actually opted to stay put today rather than head out onto the highway or out onto the tracks. We've decided to just sit it out and let it dry out. The sun is trying to come out. There's a reasonable breeze. It is drying out. We can see the puddles, water levels dropping. The forecast is for no more rain for at least another week. That was the last forecast we saw. There was another vehicle here earlier, and it was overnight, and it's decided to head off. And just driving through the campsite, it's demonstrated how soft it really is. So it sort of confirmed our choice to stay put. We'll ride it out. There's a couple of walks here we can do and go and have a look at. Otherwise you probably would never do them. So unless you stayed put at a place like this for 2 nights, you probably wouldn't do these walks and activities that are available on site. This Fort Grey campsite's undergoing redevelopment. There's a lot of new construction going on. So we're sort of camped in the construction site really. Bunting and witches' hats and bollards. What's here seems to be a little bit tired, and they do want you to use gas rather than, well, you're not allowed to use wood. There's no fires allowed and no collection of wood obviously, so no fires. This is Lake Pinnaroo. We're very fortunate to be able to see it like this. It's about 75% full, which is unusual in that it's actually got water in it at all. It's only on exceptional years that it has water in it. So clearly it's an exceptional year. In this area this year alone they've had just over 200 mil of rain. By all accounts that's a lot. So they're quite excited what that means come spring. Everyone's going to just leap out of the ground and the wildflowers will be prolific. And the birds clearly love it. So we're doing a little walk, a couple of K long from our camp, out to the lake and then around, looks at some of the historic stuff, some of the old homestead. Filling in time, you might say. I mean, we're marooned here for a couple of nights, so why not get out and have a look and explore these places? Because the irony is, we would probably just rush past and we wouldn't actually stop and poke around in these places because it's not the destination. It's a micro destination. So this is a point on our path, on the map, that we happen to be passing through. So we'll take something from it, we'll learn and get out and explore it. It's pretty spectacular. It's just off the road. We've walked probably not a kilometre from the campsite, and that's only a kilometre off the main road. Yet 99.9% of people, I suspect, just sail on straight down the road. And we would have been one of them if it wasn't for this rain. It caught us out, stranded us, marooned us. We probably would have packed up this morning and headed off, and we wouldn't come in here and have a look. The old coolibah trees in the middle have succumbed. They're wet feet. They're not used to being wet so often, and that's probably something to do with the climate change. I'm not sure. All the stuff around the fringe, the coolibahs around the fringe of the lake are thriving, and they'll do their own competitive thing. Stuff in the middle, these old ones, they're stunted, apparently up to about 500 years old, and yet they've succumbed, being waterlogged, just not used to this much water over repetitive years by all accounts. What a great sight. It was about 1974 that this area flooded, a huge flood, the biggest one on record, and it was underwater for about 5 years. And as a result of that, these old coolibahs couldn't handle it, that being waterlogged for that long, and they all killed over. So it's a bit of a shame, but one of the reasons that the water hung around, or the deluge, the big influx, was because of land clearing and agricultural purposes. The land had been modified and changed, and the water has come through from Frome Swamp, or Lake Frome Swamp I think it's called, and moved through the country a lot quicker than normal, hung around in places where it wouldn't normally. And yeah, all these old trees just couldn't handle being waterlogged for 5 years or thereabouts, and went toes up. It's funny what we do, you know, us humans. We eke out our living, but there's often consequences to how we go about doing what we're doing. And it's 50 years later now, 74, 50 years later, and none of them are, you know, regenerated. They are known to regenerate. People think that the old coolabah's gone toes up and years later they'll spring back to life, there'll be new shoots, but this is 50 years now and none of these appear to be reshooting. There is a ring of new coolabahs right around the edge, so maybe that's the next generation. You've got all this clover sprung up as a result of the receding water, and as we walk through it, it's pungent. You can't smell it on the camera obviously, but it's real strong aroma, not unpleasant. The ruins of the old Fort Grey homestead sits here on the banks of the Lake Pinnaroo, and by all accounts the 1956 flood come up to the homestead and started impacting on the homestead and surrounds, so it was moved to, well, current site if you like. But by all accounts the degradation really started to occur in 1974 flood, where the wave action started to dissolve the mortar, I suppose, that was holding the rock together. The place started to crumble apart. Over here there was when the original homestead, there was like a bow and brush wire sort of dome, timber dome and thatched roof, and that's obviously succumbed to the elements over the years and the weather, but nestled in, would have been a pretty sheltered spot, sort of dug in the side of the dune. Even on a day like today where there's a bit of a breeze blowing, it's quite protected in here. The old Fort Grey ruins. Given the park regulations banned the use of wood fires, we needed to resort to more modern sources of insulation. We dragged out our puffer jackets, generally kept in reserve just for moments like this. Here, the lad studies the map for tomorrow's itinerary, Dad journals a monologue for this video, and Mum thumbs a 5-year-old Better Homes and Garden magazine she swapped back at the Pineview Station's Bush Library. It was looking highly likely it would be an early night. At least now, given the recent upgrades to our salubrious accommodation, the installation of our diesel heater, we'd be able to adjourn to the confines of our camper and partake in a spot of reading or other nocturnal activities. Morning. What a difference 24 hours can make. This time yesterday, we were squelching around here in mud. It rained all night. Last night, however, was crystal clear. Just as we were going to bed, the clouds completely moved out. It was brilliant clear sky. We were practicing our iPhone astrophotography. We'll have a look and see how that went when we get home. It's not quite 7 o'clock, I think. And, we're probably going to get going pretty early this morning, or as early as possible. Quick breakfast, pack up and then hit the road. We've got Cameron's Corner down the way here, about 20 kilometres-ish. There'll still be some residual water laying around on the track, we suspect. It's dried out lots. We could watch it yesterday with the breeze around, even without the sun. The puddles were diminishing, and as we were walking around it was getting more and more firm underfoot. just arrived at the Cameron's Corner gate. Not sure if the road's actually closed because we haven't seen another car all day, and we've had no way of telling whether the road was closed after the rain. Where we were, there's no phone signal. We haven't seen any other traffic going either way. Saying that, we haven't seen any traffic for a couple of days now. Anyway, let's go through into Queensland, South Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, all of that. Where are we?
South Australia.
Alright, move around. Where are we going?
Where?
And
Now we're in
Queensland.
Queensland. Woohoo!
where are we going next?
Oh, New South Wales.
It's cold over here. New South Wales.
Oh yes, it's colder over here. You got the wind in our face. Let's go back to Queensland. Ah, you can take your down jacket off now, Mum. We're in Queensland, sunny Queensland. Well, we made it to Cameron's Corner. Been here a few times now. It's always a great spot to be able to visit and put a foot in each state. Over the back there you got the Cameron's Corner campground pub. Not too many people around. I suspect it's because of the road conditions. The sign over there saying that, well, it's not sure what it's saying actually, because it's sort of flipped over between road open to four-wheel drive and road open to four-wheel drive and heavy vehicle. It's sort of sitting in between the two. Our plan is we'll fill up with fuel. We do use a bit more fuel when you're starting to push through this soft country. We've got enough to get to Lyndhurst, but probably err on the side of caution and fill up here. Yeah, that certainly won't be a problem for us then, and the lad won't have to shoulder the jerry can and head into town if we fall just short. Well, there's a turn of events. This is a bit of familiar road. Not sure if you recognise it. We were going the other way an hour ago. We got to Cameron's Corner and the roads were closed beyond. The one we're on, it turns out, was open. So between Tibooburra and Cameron's Corner, so that's what we were on. Corrugation's going this way, we didn't have them before. We could have sat it out. There was a chance that the road could have got open tomorrow, but possibly not. And then there's more rain forecast later in the week, so we hedged our bets and we've decided to turn around and go back. But by all accounts, they're going to close this road this afternoon as well, the Tibooburra Road. We could have been stuck we would have been stuck at Cameron's Corner. We thought, no, well, we don't need to do that. We can just turn around and wander back. Tibooburra, probably back to Broken Hill, back to the bitumen really. From Broken Hill, just head west, see where we get then. Good thing is we actually didn't follow the road from Broken Hill to Tibooburra, the normal route. We went bush. So we'll actually be on a bit of road that we haven't travelled on this trip. We've only got to get back to Tibooburra. The road will be closed by the time we get back there. This road will be closed, but because we're on it already, we're okay. Normally when we come through this country here, it's red dirt gibber country, but it's actually like a manicured golf course at the moment. It's green as far as we can see. It's green. By all accounts, the stations are stocking up. Normally they'd be destocking, but they're stocking up, so probably a good indication of the conditions. But those conditions have meant that we're backtracking with our tail between our legs back to Tibooburra. Still a few k's out, probably another 30 k's to Tibooburra. Given the time of the day, it's a good chance that's as far as we're going to get today. Well, we've landed back in Tibooburra. We got back in mid-afternoon yesterday. Just tried to warm up, dry out. regroup a little bit. So while we're on the road from Cameron's Corner to Tibooburra, the road will become officially closed, but if you're already on it, that's not an issue. You can keep going until you get out or off, which we did. So we retraced our steps back to Tibooburra, although we haven't been here this trip. We've done a big loop really. So we got Broken Hill about 300 k's south of here on the Silver City Highway, so that's where we'll be heading because of this weather and the road's closed. It's put a bit of a kibosh on our plans. If you haven't been to Tibooburra before, you need to get amongst it. It's an iconic outback town on the bitumen. You can drive all the way to Tibooburra on the bitumen, but the minute you look over the back fence, it just breaks away into this outback New South Wales. We're actually in granite country here, surrounded by these granite tors, and it's just a fantastic setting. Just out the back of the caravan park, you can just climb up and watch the sun come up. Bit of a high point overlooking town. So I just pulled the map book out and I thought I'd run through where we've been on this little circuit. There's a bit of country there that possibly is path less travelled. I just thought I'd highlight it on the map and put some perspective on it. Zoom in and have a look. Now we've got Broken Hill down the corner here, and just out of Broken Hill is Silverton. So we pretty much kicked the adventure off from Silverton, headed all the way up through Aldi Station, kept going up here towards Avenel and Talta. And what we found was, it's not marked on the map here, but there's actually a new national park in here, Mount Westwood, Talta, Avenel. So that was a good find, all still being established in terms of the infrastructure and everything. And kept poking up here, so once again closer to the border there, heading north, only a few kilometres from the border. Border Downs, if we stop there and I'll flick the page from Border Downs. So from Border Downs you get right over onto the border itself at Bulka Gate, Smithfield House. Basically you're following the border along the dog fence. It's a Hawker Gate that wasn't, and then it ducks back in, keeps heading north. Getting late in the day at this stage. You hit the main Tibooburra Cameron Corner Road at Waka, and from there we ducked into Fort Grey. We camped in there and we ended up getting caught there for 2 nights because that's where it rained and rained and rained. And we ducked up into Cameron Corner just to see what was going on, with the intent of coming through past Bollard's Lagoon and across to the Strzelecki, but that was closed. And while we were at Cameron's Corner, they talked about this road being going to be closed. So we turned around and we headed back here to Tibooburra, and then down south towards back down to Broken Hill. Big loop in there that we did with the intention of coming up and going that way, but now we're coming down here and we've got to come across the bottom. Back on the bitumen, heading west to Yunta. The Barrier Highway is a good drive, particularly in the morning when the sun is over the shoulder. Later in the day, when the wildlife wanders and the sun is low in the sky, that's a completely different story. We just struck outback gold. We're at Yunta, down there on the Barrier Highway. Come from Broken Hill this morning, a couple of hours drive, a couple hundred k's to Yunta, and from there we had to flip the coin and say, well, we come this way or we go that way, and we decided to go this way. So from Yunta we headed north, and well, we're most fortunate. We wanted to sort of take the shortest route across the Hawker, the most direct route across the Hawker, and then we'll head up Maree and up the Oodnadatta track. So that's the plan. How do we get there? Anyway, if we spotted this track on the map, all up, it's about 180 k's Yunta to Hawker. And this track is awesome, and it's just unbelievable outback touring. It just meanders away through there. The road was in perfect condition. There's no traffic on it. We had dropped about 20 psi out of the tyres, so it was comfortable. We just wandered along. We've done 100 kilometres to this point, and it was easy driving. It was scenic driving. You're always looking out to the north, and you've got the Flinders Ranges looming up, getting bigger and bigger. And then we stumbled across this old donger here, his old homestead, yesteryear. Pull up for a bite to eat, put the nose bag on and a half a cup, and check out the old ruins while we're at it. We haven't travelled this track before. We were just sniffing around looking for an option between there, point A and point B. A new country, awesome track, great condition, great scenery. What more do we want? Start of the Oodnadatta track, our favourite outback touring routes in Australia. This is awesome. We're going to have a poke along here. Sign says the track starts here, so this is where we start. Well, we just filled up at Maree and we're on the Oodnadatta track proper, the gravel section that is. Awesome economy to that point, 14 litres per 100. Won't complain about that. And that was from Yunta to Maree, just shy of 500k, $2.90 a litre. We had a ripper downpour just as we were coming through Lyndhurst. Could see this rain cell hanging in front of us for a while. Our paths finally crossed. It was almost flooding rain actually, so it's getting on a bit. It's 3:30. Got in our mind that we might push on to Coward Springs. We've still got the best part of 100 k's to go. Some sections of this road are extremely corrugated, and I'm putting it down to one thing only: tyre pressures. People aren't airing down. Air down, people. Makes all the difference to you and to the road. It's Lake Air South out there, one of the many spots along the Oodnadatta track you can pull over and check out some of the scenery and the history. Scenery in this case, probably a lot of history there as well. But while we're standing here, it's filling. I'm actually getting wet here at the moment. Big ominous cloud hanging over the top of us, and we've been copping a bit of rain as we're driving around. Copped a squall just back there along the road a little bit, and we're just commenting about this part of the desert seems to be very dry. Must have missed out on a lot of the rain a few days ago. Around Cameron's Corner it was lush green and obviously very wet. There's an ominous dark cloud right behind us. We had a ripper full rainbow. It was awesome. Hopefully we're driving out of it, away from it. So we're just pushing on to Coward Springs, I think. Well, that was all very interesting. I think we're probably 20-25 k's out from Coobapedy now. Cut across from William Creek. Weather was coming in, which it did. Well, we avoided the weather, but we scored the aftermath. The road was just slop. Quite interesting actually. But we're about 20 k's, 25 k's out of Coobapedy now, and so we decided to cut across here purely because it was 160 k's this way out to the bitumen, or keep going north on the Oodnadatta track for 400 odd k's. Potentially have 400 k's of treacherous conditions. The roads were all open, nothing was closed. We checked all that beforehand, and William Creek was dry. And there was actually a warning, weather warning had gone out, say that the storm cells were in the area. We could see them on the horizon here and there. It's amazing how your plans change so quickly. Here we were today, we were going to head up through Oodnadatta and pop out the highway up there, Marla somewhere, but we'll end up at Coobapedy, which wasn't part of the plan. First things first, we'll try and find a car wash. I reckon we're carrying half a tonne of mud. Not sure if Coobapedi's got a car wash. If there is, we'll sniff it out. Keep the lad busy for a while, while Mum and I go and have a coffee. It's another use for a tyre lever. Rid of the mud. Lighten the load a bit before we get into the city limits. Just caked on. Look at that. Only washed it a couple of days ago. Spent about an hour and 75 bucks at the car wash to wash it. And here we are again. Oh well, could have stayed home I suppose. Where do you start? Oh, we've had a blowout there. It's got too heavy for it. Look at that, bit of damage. I've got a bit of damage. Bloody inner guard bloody mud's got that heavy on it, it's collapsed it out. Bugger. Well, hopefully this is the only issue we've got. We had a headlight stop working, which was a bit surprising. They're all a sealed LED unit, bloody expensive at that. Turns out that one of the wires was rubbing on the protection plate. These are just pretty new, these. I've had these made up because the old ones fell apart. And I think it was rubbing on here somewhere, causing problems. But anyway, I've fixed the issue. I certainly can't get it to fail again. Hopefully that's enough. We'll tie all the cables up even higher out of the way and hopefully that works. But I had to go digging to get in here. There's that much mud and crap under here. I wore most of it. We'll put it all back together and hopefully we've got headlights. A bigger hopeful is that we don't have to drive at night, but we can if we need to. Well, we've had a tumultuous couple of days. It piddled down. Basically, we had to make a bit of a dash for it from William Creek across to the bitumen on the Stewart Highway, which is what runs north-south through the guts of Australia there. It was either 400k up Oodnadatta track or 160 across to Coopapedy. So we took the shorter route to get us out onto the main road as quick as possible, and it turned while we were out there. So the weather was atrocious, basically. Poured rain, the roads turned to shit. We're sort of stuck there in the middle of nowhere, so we took it easy and limped into Coopapedy. Last 24 hours, 36 hours or thereabouts, it's just been wet, but the sun has finally come out, and we've decided this is as good a spot as any. So we're camped amongst the crowds. This is Marla Roadhouse. We've just unpacked everything, got it out, got some sun on it, trying to dry everything out. So we were wet as shags. We tried to use the car wash at Coopapedy because the mud was just thick. Half a ton of mud on the truck. But the car wash shit itself, it was overworked. I was up to my ankles in mud in the car wash, and it wasn't working anyway. There was only hose pressure. And even then that stopped. We got the important bits clean, headlights around all the handles, all the touch points around the car, and that'll keep us out of trouble for a while. I think we've stumbled across something pretty special here. We could certainly come in here and do a bit of soul searching, that's for sure. It's taken us a couple of weeks to get here, but this is what we're aiming for. Sandy Blight Junction track done, ticked. Len did an awesome job. We had a ball. That was a great track.